Hey guys, welcome back. We already now know how to create and load Hive tables. The next logical step is to see how to write simple queries against tables in Hive. If you already worked on databases like MySQL or Oracle, the queries listed in this lesson will be very familiar to you. So let's get started. When you execute a Hive query, Hive will look at the query, analyze it, and will create MapReduce jobs behind the scenes and will execute them in the cluster to get the output. That is how a typical Hive query execution would work. Let's look at the first three simple select statements. In the first select, you are selecting just the records with symbol GEL. In the second query, you're selecting the records with symbol either GEL or B3B. The third select is using a Java type regular expression which brings records that start with exchange ABC and symbol that starts with B and end with B. So let's execute the third select in our cluster. As I was saying, this query will be analyzed by Hive and Hive will create MapReduce jobs behind the scenes and it will execute the jobs in the cluster and then will print the output on the screen. There you go. Here is our output. The output is listing all the records that starts with exchange ABC in its name and also listing any records with symbol that starts with B and ends with B. Let's look at this query with case statement. What we are trying to do here is very simple. We are selecting all the records for symbol GEL and we are checking the volume. And depending on the size of the volume, we are tagging the record as low, high, medium, or very high. For example, if the volume is greater than 20,000 and less than 40,000, we are making the volume as middle. Let's execute this query. Let's wait for the execution to complete. As you can see, records for symbol GEL are selected from the stocks dataset and based on the volume, records are tagged. Next on the list, we have a simple query with distinct keyword. This query will bring the list of all distinct exchange and symbol from the stocks dataset. Sometimes you don't want to see all the records for your query. If you like to limit the number of records to a number, you can include the limit clause in your query along with the number of records you would like to see in the output. Let's execute the query with limit. Here, you're trying to print just 10 records from the stocks table. As you can see, this query did not run a MapReduce job. When you write simple select queries which does not require any computation, Hive just reads the table and print the output without a MapReduce job. So moving on. Next is a group by query. We are using the year function here to get the year from the date. And we are using the year and symbol to group the records. And we are calculating the average volume. So this query will get us the average volume of stocks by year and symbol. Next query is a slight variation to the first group by query. Here we are filtering the output to bring the records with average volume which are greater than 400,000. Since average volume is a derived or computed value at the runtime, we will use the having clause in the query. So let's execute the query with the group by and having clause. Let's wait for the execution to complete and then let's review the output. And here is the output. Here we have grouped the records by year and symbol and we are printing records with average volume greater than 400,000. Let's move on to the next query. It is not always practical to look at the output on the screen, especially when the number of records in your output is a lot to see it on the screen. And sometimes you want to save your output for another job or to review it later. In such cases, you can save the output of your query to a file either locally or in HDFS. Look at this insert override query. The records from the select query will be inserted into the mentioned directory locally. If you remove the local keyword from the query, the records will be inserted into the mentioned directory in HDFS. So let's run this select insert query in our cluster. Since you're saying insert override, it will overwrite the contents of the mentioned directory. Now we can see the output in this directory locally. So let's go ahead and look at that. There you go. Here we can see the file from our query execution in our local file system. So let's open the file. Here's the output. That is it, guys. So in this lesson, we saw some very simple Hive queries. And these queries are very simple, especially if you're familiar with SQL already. In the next lessons, we'll look at some key, important, and challenging concepts in Hive. With that, let's wrap this lesson. See you in the next lesson.